Welcome back, mamas. Y'all, I am super excited this week because we are going to talk about the power of positivity. And today's episode is all about affirmations. If you know me, you know I love them. I am a huge advocate for them. We're going to talk about the science behind it, the reason why I believe you must implement these starting today. It is that easy. It is life-changing. And I know you are going to love them as much as I do when we are finished here. So let's get to it. Do you wish you had control of your days, that you had a rhythm, but instead feel overwhelmed, scattered, and like there's never enough time? You're in the right place. I'm Danielle, a recovering workaholic, wife, and stay-at-home mom of 2 girls. I've learned how to reclaim my time and find purpose and freedom so I can be present with my kids and feel like myself again. Here, we embrace where we are, but we don't stay there. So if you're ready to trade the chaos for clarity, the guilt for grace, and the endless to-do list for aligned flow, grab the kiddos a snack and toss in that laundry because I know you're multitasking, and let's do this because your time, your purpose, and you matter. Okay, y'all. So this, like I said, my favorite topic, positivity and the power of positive thinking. I have been wired this way my whole life. I am always looking for the positive. Okay. And so I know that for some, this doesn't come as easy as others. And affirmations are something that we're talking about today. These are going to strike a chord with a lot of people who think they do not work. But I am here to tell you this is a proven technique that can work for anyone, not just positive people. And I'm going to tell you the science behind why. But first, I want to start with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, and it says, "Keep your thoughts positive because your thoughts become your words." Now, I would also say that I feel like this is really important as a mother, right? When you think about this quote in terms of motherhood and the fact that we are modeling behavior for our children, okay? So I'm going to start the quote again. So keep your thoughts positive because your thoughts become your words. Keep your words positive because your words become your behavior. Keep your behavior positive because your behavior becomes your habits. Keep your habits positive because your habits become your values. Keep your values positive because your values become your destiny. Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, so y'all, this quote is so true. And it all starts with what? It starts with our thoughts. It starts with our positive thoughts. And a lot of times as moms, we can beat ourselves up about all the things, right? About everything. And when we do this, sometimes we just do it internally in our head, right? But a lot of times we actually speak those things out. So our thoughts become our words. Our words then are going to become our behavior. And I'm going to just tell you that this is not something that you want your children to model, right? You want your children to have positive thoughts. Now, I know it goes against science because that's been proven that 80%, 80 plus percent of what you think on a daily basis is negative, and that it is easier for us to believe negative things about ourselves than positive, okay? But the good news is that we can change that. We can change that. So it's scientifically proven that you can change your neural pathways, that you can form new neural pathways, and that affirmations is a huge way to do this. So using positive affirmations. So what are affirmations? Typically you hear of I am statements like I am an amazing mother, right? Like that is something that I used to say when I was struggling with believing that I was an amazing mother. However, I knew I had it in me to be an amazing mother. So I want to start with that, which is you have to use affirmations in a way that is in alignment with who you are, what you want, your core values, things like that. It is very important that you say affirmations that feel in line with who you are and who you want to be, who you are striving to be, right? There is I don't know if she was a psychologist, I don't know, back in the early 1900s, she had a formula, and I forget her name right now, but it was like, every day in every way I am getting better, or something like that. Every day in every way I am getting better and better. And this was something that, people would say over and over again. And it was proven that they would say this and they would then start to believe it, because that is not an I am statement, right? It doesn't have to be an I am statement. Every day in every way I am getting better and better. That is a positive statement. That is an affirmation. That is something that you are striving for, right? You are getting better and better every single day. And you wake up every single day is a new day, and you can choose to get better and better. And you can say this affirmation to yourself. You can choose affirmations that feel very true to you. And that is going to be super important to having the affirmation work and having this work for you, because there are cases where it has been studied where people are using affirmations that are not theirs. They are not feeling true to them, and they have low self-esteem already. And then they start saying these affirmations that don't feel possible and don't feel true to them. And it actually starts to make them feel worse about themselves, right? So you want to make sure that you're saying something that is feeling true and, like a core belief of something that you're striving towards, or something that you're working towards, or something that you already believe that you are, and you're reinforcing that, right? Like you can reinforce things in yourself, but you also want to say things of things you're striving for. Like I remember, I am in control and I create my own reality. That was one that I would say every day in the mirror, even though I didn't feel like I was always in control. I knew that to be true, right? I knew that I was in control and I knew that I could create my own reality. I just, in that moment, did not feel like I was in control, or that I was creating the reality that I wanted to, right? But I knew that I was in control and I knew that I could create my own reality, and I was doing that. I just wasn't liking the reality that I was creating at the time. So I would tell myself that, so that I kept striving to get better and better. And so that I was creating the reality that I did want, right? And I knew that I was in control of that. Now, I also used God as my anchor. I used Jesus as my rock, right? Like I would say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And so while I knew I was in control, I know God ultimately is in control. And so I would use him to gain my strength to be able to say, okay, God, you've got to give me the strength. And then I know I am in control. Like I can channel that, right? Like I have to receive God's strength in order to be able to be my best self. And I am in control of my reality. So that is something that I would say, and I would truly believe it. But it also felt very, it didn't feel sad at the time, but it was like, it was a hopeful, for me, it was like a hopeful thing. I knew in the reality that I was in wasn't where I wanted to be, but I knew that I could change that. And I knew by saying that I had the power to change it. And I knew at that point in time, I had to lead on God for my strength, right? So I would say a lot of different affirmations. And if you haven't heard me say this before about the affirmations, so I always post them on my bathroom mirror. You can put them wherever. Like for me is the time where I knew I'm going to brush my teeth. That's a non-negotiable for me. Like I pretty much cannot start my day until I brush my teeth. Like I don't know what it is, but I have to brush my teeth. And so for me, the bathroom mirror is a place where I know if I get to put on my makeup, or if I get to, do any other thing in my bathroom mirror, that's great. I can say them again. But if I am brushing my teeth, I am saying my affirmations. And that's what I would do every single day. You can put them on in the closet. You can put them, like on Post-its on the inside of a cabinet. You can put them on your ceiling, like, in your bedroom, or, in your kids' room, if that is someplace where you always lay down with them and try to get them to sleep or something. You can put them on the ceiling or put them on your phone, wherever you can know that you are going to see them. I don't like to put them on my phone because I don't like to look at my phone if I don't have to. So I like to put them somewhere where they're in my face, that it's going to be, I am going to see this, right? And it is going to remind me, even if, like, I have a statement on my computer screen that says, cultivate God confidence. Cultivate God confidence. And I call it Godfidence now. Like, I changed the word to Godfidence, right? But that is something that I would see it inadvertently every time I started working, or every time I started doing something on my computer. I would see that. Even if I didn't say it out loud to myself, I would see it and I would be able to tap into that. And so it's the power of these positive things that you tell yourself. I'm going to tell you guys about a study that was done. And this wasn't really like a scientific study. This was just a professor. He has a PhD in psychology. His name is David Bredhoft, and he taught for over 37 years. And he always had this experiment that he would do with his class, where he would get someone from the class, somebody willing to participate, right, to come up to the front of the room, and he would ask them to stand there with their arm out, and he would press down on their arm, and he would say, try to resist me pressing down on your arm. And they would do it, right? And they would resist him with all their might. They would resist him pressing down on their arm. And then he would say, now I want you to say, I am a weak and worthless person. And they would have to say this 10 times. And he would tick off the times as they said it 10 times in a row. I am a weak and worthless person. I am a weak and worthless person. Okay. And then he would try to push their arm down again. Then he would tell them, okay, now put your arm out and resist. And their arm would go down. So their arm didn't go down the first time when he pushed on it. But now, after they had said, I am a weak and worthless person, he would be able to press their arm down to their side. And then he would say, okay, so now I'm going to ask you to go ahead and say, I am a strong and worthy person. I am a strong and worthy person. And repeat that 10 times with conviction, okay? And he would ask them again to put their arm out, and he would press down on their arm. And you guys, guess what happened? They were able to resist his arm. Because when you feed your mind these negative thoughts, it affects not only your mind, but it affects your body. It really does affect your body and your mind. Your mind is connected. It controls everything in your body. And when your mind is being told something over and over again by you, you are programming yourself to be a weak and worthless person. Like those people were programming themselves to be that. And so when you tell yourself, like, I am a bad mother, or I always yell, or whatever it is, if it's something that you don't want to do, it is not something you should tell yourself. You should tell yourself the thing that you actually strive for. Right? Instead of telling yourself that you always yell, make it into a better statement, like, I can control my temper when I get angry. Things like that. I can control my temper when I get angry. I am in control of my temper. When I feel like I am going to lose my temper, I count to 10. Like, any of these things that you want to say to yourself, so that you don't say, I always yell at my kids, or I'm just a bad mother. You might say it to your kids, and maybe I'm just a bad mother, right? But you're telling yourself, and you're saying this to your kids, right? This is not something they need to hear, because then you're telling them that you're a bad mother. And even though you're saying it jokingly, or you're not really meaning it, but you're saying it. And when you say something, your body reacts to that and it internalizes it. And there might be some part of you that actually feels like a bad mother, because you're not going to say, I guess I'm just a bad mother, if there's some part of you that doesn't really believe that. If you are believing that you are a good mother, and that you're, typically I feel like people might say that when they are in the heat of something and their child is not wanting to do what they, are asking them to do. And so, they're throwing a temper tantrum or whatever. And, they're being like, well, why would we have to do this or whatever? And you're like, maybe I'm just a bad mother, or they might be saying something to you and you're just like, well, I'm just a bad mother. I guess I'm just a bad mother, or because you have a bad mother, or, something like that you might be saying out of just, you don't really necessarily mean it, but there is a truth to that sinks in. And so you don't want to say it out loud. You do not want to say that. Right? So you're not going to overnight stop having these thoughts, or you're not going to overnight stop having these things come out of your mouth. However, when you do have the thoughts, you can recognize them and reframe them. You can recognize when you speak something out of your mouth that you do not want to speak, and you can change that, right? This even goes to parenting and correcting, right? Because a lot of times, I don't know if you've heard this or not, but if you correct your child, you don't want to correct them in a negative way. You want to tell them actually what you want them to do. So instead of saying, don't touch that stove, you would say, oh, the stove is hot. Hot is ouch, right? Like the stove is ouch. Instead of saying, don't touch that or don't do that, you actually tell them what you do want them to do, right? Instead of saying, don't take that from your brother, say, remember sharing is caring, or, whatever. I don't know. I'm just making that up off the top of my head. But basically, you're reinforcing what you want them to do. You're not saying what you don't want them to do. Because what happens is a lot of times we filter out that negative, especially when children are young. They filter out that negative, like do not, right? And they hear you say, touch the stove. And so if they were going to touch the stove, then they're touching the stove anyway, right? Or do not take the truck, or whatever it is. Like, you have to tell them what you want them to do versus what you don't want them to do, because you're reinforcing the thing you don't want them to do by saying that, which is exactly what we're doing in our minds every day. And so changing these behaviors, changing this thought pattern can be very simple if we just start using these positive affirmations and saying things that we want, as opposed to saying things that we don't want, or having these thought patterns that we don't want, allowing ourselves to have these thought patterns that we don't want. What we want to do is catch the negative and turn it into a positive, reframe it in such a way. These things that you recognize in yourself, these negative things, may actually become what you say as your I am statements, or what you say as your positive affirmations. Like I said, they don't have to be I am statements, but I want you to think about some of the things that you can say to yourself that feel true to you and to who you are and to who you want to be and to who you're striving to be, and to start to say some of those things, right? Every day I am getting better, right? Every day I am becoming a better mother. Every day I am becoming more patient. Every day I am, and insert the thing that you want to do. I know patience was one for me that I always was striving for. I felt like I lost my temper way too easily, and I did not like that about myself. And so I would beat myself up about that. I would beat myself up in my head about it. I would feel guilty about it. I would sit there and fixate on it. And then that almost reinforced the behavior versus catching what it was that I wanted to change, and then start saying positive things to yourself to reinforce the behavior that you want to have. Okay, so this goes for parenting, but it also goes for yourself. And these I am statements are so powerful. I want to end with one more quote here. And this one is from Norman Vincent Peale. And it says, believe in yourself, have faith in your abilities. Without a humble but reasonable confidence in your own powers, you cannot be successful or happy. You cannot be successful or happy without a humble but reasonable confidence in your own powers. This is something that we can change, right? We can have a confidence in our own powers. We can tell ourselves what things we want to reinforce. We can believe in ourselves. We can have that faith in ourselves and we can reinforce it with these positive affirmations. And so I want to challenge you to start thinking of some positive affirmations that you can say to yourself. I know that one that I loved to say to myself was, I am worthy of massive success. And I am telling you, when I started saying that, I did not truly believe it. I didn't truly believe it. I wanted massive success, but it wasn't until I started saying that to myself that I realized that I didn't believe that I deserved massive success. And when I started saying it, I was able to uncover that reasons why I didn't believe that I was worthy of that success. And they were deep. And because I want the success so much, because that was something, and success is different for everybody, right? So, what success means to you is different than what it means to me. But I wanted that success so much, what that meant to me. And I realized that I didn't feel worthy of it. And so I had a lot of work to do to uncover what that meant. So you might have a lot of work to do to uncover what is blocking you from what it is that you want. And this is something where you might not even recognize what your core values or what your core wants are in this season of your life. You might just know that you want more, right? This is the work that we do in Prioritize Your Purpose, by the way. But I want you to think about what it is that's important to you so that you can make these affirmations around those. And if you need a list of affirmations, if it's something where you just need, sometimes I need like a memory jogger, I will make sure that I put these in our Facebook group. So go to the show notes, find the Facebook group. If you do not belong, ask to join the Facebook group and get yourself into the habit of saying these affirmations, because this is one of the top keys that was able to pull me out of my depression, that was able to change my mindset, that was able to get me to where I wanted to be. It was saying these affirmations that was able to pull me out of this so much quicker than I would have been able to without them. You guys, so much quicker. And I want you to know that you are worthy, that I know you're doing your best. And that is enough. And that is actually an amazing affirmation. I am doing my best, and that is enough. And you may not feel like you are at your best every single day. I know I didn't, and still I don't feel at my best every single day. But you are doing the best that you can, and that is enough. And so saying that to yourself and believing it, like you are enough. You are doing enough. You are doing your best with what you have at this moment, and that is enough. That is an amazing affirmation that any of us can say. And if you do not believe that, if you can't get yourself to believe that one, then that is something that might be bigger than, like, let's say, Prioritize Your Purpose. My coaching program can help you with. I would love to help you, but I also think that you might need some help from an actual therapist, right? Because it sounds like you might have something deeper going on. And I'm a huge advocate for mental health, and it's not something to mess around with, especially as a mama. So I know I was able to pull myself out of that deep depression, but like I said, I am a positive person. I have always been a positive person, and depression hit me out of absolutely nowhere. I had never dealt with it before and had never known anything like it since, right? And so I just feel super blessed that God was with me through that. And I believe I went through it so that I could do what I do today. But I am telling you that it is definitely something that you don't want to mess around with, and you don't want to pass this on to your kids, right? So I would advocate for Prioritize Your Purpose coaching. Absolutely. If you want to get better and you want to discover what your core values are and you want to get to the root of what's important to you in your life right now in this season and how to get that, right? That is what we do. I'll get you clarity. We'll get you everything that you're looking for and more. I can help you with positivity and positive statements, and we can go through this together. But if you are in that place where you think you might be a danger to yourself, then you should definitely seek professional help. So I just wanted to plug for that and say that I love you, that you are worthy, that these I am statements can change your life, and they will when you find some that are very aligned with who you are. This will be something that will be so powerful for you. And so I am going to talk more about positivity and the power of that and all the positive things that you can get in your life on Thursday. But until then, you guys, please go to prioritizewithpurpose.com, sign up for the newsletter, sign up for the Facebook group, join the Prioritize Your Purpose coaching. Whatever one of those feels the best to you right now, I encourage you to take one of those steps today, okay? Prioritizewithpurpose.com, and I will be back with you on Thursday. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, Mama. If so, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and then hit share and send this to a mom who needs this in her day. I'll meet you right here on Thursday. Keep smiling, y'all.